one thing and one thing only in his tenure as the coach at West Virginia University, and that's that he's average at best. Let's talk about that on this episode of Locked On West Virginia.
You are Locked On West Virginia, your daily podcast on the West Virginia Mountaineers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up? Welcome in, guys. My name is Mountaineer Paul, and you've reached another episode of Locked On West Virginia. What a tough day, tough evening, whatever you want to call it. It's been rough. Thank you for making Locked On West Virginia your first listen today and every day, and for being part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where we cover your team every single day. And this episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create the account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. So, I see right away somebody saying, is he still better than Jimbo Fisher? I never said that. Never did I ever say that. I said that Jimbo Fisher wasn't the answer. A guy that's mediocre at Texas A&M with everything is probably not going to do very well at a place like West Virginia, where we have less than half, maybe worse. So that's we're not going to get off on Jimbo here, but me saying Jimbo sucks has nothing to do with saying that Neal is great. That's just the way it is. So there's a lot to kind of get into here. So obviously I need to change this background, but let me change that really quick if I can without going crazy here. I thought I had it changed, doggone it. Let's see here. Maybe it's already on there at that. Could be. Let's see. Nope, not on there. My apologies for that. I thought I put it on there. Well, let me try to get it on there for you guys really quick, and we'll move on with this episode. But
you're going to see me double in here for a second.
We're in the Matrix. One sec. And there we go. And we're back. Neal Brown does it again, and in a bad way. Fans are over it, and what's next? That's what I wanted to get to. Apologies for that. So I'm just going to run through some stuff here, some notes that I have, some things that I've written down since yesterday that I just didn't want to be over emotional. Get on here and yell, because that doesn't help anything. And yesterday I would have yelled. So let's go. So Josh Pate said it before last year. West Virginia was ranked 16 of 17 years before Neal Brown was the coach at some point in a season or preseason. That goes through Dana Holgorsen. Some of that can be attributed to the Big East and the admission I think a lot of us are coming to, that the Big East maybe is nowhere near the monster that the Big 12 has been for us as a program, and that's due to travel. That's due to recruiting challenges. That's due to our brand falling off a little bit and making it even harder to recruit to a place like West Virginia, and then it's also obviously the coach's fault. Yesterday, West Virginia went 14 plays, 75 yards, and chewed up 8 minutes off the clock to go up 7-0 against Iowa State. And then they try to turn Garrett Green into Will Grier or Geno Smith. I don't get it. We went down, but it was only 2 possessions. Like at worst, it makes absolutely no sense. I couldn't understand why. Like, there was a few times where we got behind the chains because of Brandon Yates, and that's another issue I'll get into. But, and I realized we had to throw the ball, and we hadn't hit some nice passes. Traylon Ray was really on yesterday. He really played well, and they were getting a lot of separation on that skinny post and that in route that he was running. But that doesn't mean to drop back and throw it every play. And it just seemed like to me that Neal Brown doesn't have the patience in big games to chew the clock away like he did against Oklahoma State. You just had to do the same game plan. Yes, this was a much tougher team to run it against. But and there was the 2 drives that Brandon Yates, we got behind schedule on. And I understand throwing in those situations. But for the most part, I feel like Neal Brown, if this is why I say he's just an average coach. I wouldn't say that he's horrible, and I wouldn't say that he's great. He is what he is at West Virginia in 6 years, and that's average, which is about 6 wins, right? That's average. So, you can say it's bad because you're mad about it, but it's just really just average, and that's not what we need. Mediocre and average actually are the same thing, Garfield, brother, but in my book. So mediocre just sounds worse, but if you look up words that are synonymous with or similar to, because I did this. If you look in my title today, it says why he's average or something like that. Actually, mediocre was the first word I used, and then I Googled words associated with mediocre. Average was one of them. So I think, you're playing on words at this point, but mediocre sounds worse. It's just, to me, with the way I look at it from a phone, it's harder to read. So that's why I put average. But anyway, so obviously we were ranked 16 to 17 years before he got here. And then in the game last night, 14 plays, 75 yards in a drive. And then he tried to make Garrett a passer. I don't understand it. He tried to turn him into something he's not. There's the Brandon Yates issues, which they talked about afterwards, why they didn't bench him. And yes, Brandon Yates has absolutely earned. He's absolutely earned that starting job. But when you can't run regular offense because of high snaps, Garrett Green caught several high snaps. Now, if Garrett Green was Drew Aller's size, they probably hit him in the chin. But Garrett Green's 5'11". So he's up here for it. You know what that does? It takes his eyes off the defense. It takes his eyes off where the receivers are. It takes his eyes off maybe where the running back's going to be, or the pressure, where it's coming from. Like, there's a myriad of issues it causes. And this staff didn't have the critical thinking skills to make a change because they're so stuck on their starters. When asked about Garrett Green and making a quarterback change, he got mad. Kudos, whoever asked that question. Somebody please provide me with that information. I couldn't hear who he said. It's almost like Neal tried to butter this guy up in the press conference, in my opinion, because whenever he saw him, he said, "Hey, we've been missing you." And then that guy continued to ask the hardest question of the press conference, which was, why did you think about making a quarterback change? And Neal got upset at that. So I didn't like the attitude at all. Down 28-10, Traylon Ray had a false start. While Milam got called for holding, Nick Malone had a false start. And this team continues to make undisciplined errors in situations when you're the worst team. If that was a 3-3 Iowa State team yesterday, we probably win that game. They could be the same players. And so I don't get that. He's lost 8 straight against ranked teams and is still 3-16 overall versus the top 25. Unbelievable. It's at this point, I have to admit that I was wrong on several fronts. The 2023 season and schedule was weak, and I thought the returning player / momentum would be enough to overcome a lot of this schedule. Because of the wins last year, I thought, well, maybe he's turning the corner. You look at Kalani Sitake at BYU. He's been bad there a couple different seasons, like very similar to Neal Brown at BYU. I mean, they've had better overall seasons where he's had like 1 10-win season there, I think, with Zach Wilson. And he's had a couple good seasons, but he's also been there a long time and had some bad ones. And so I compared them a little bit. But obviously Sitake's a much better coach at this point. this really describes it all. The teams that have beaten us are a combined 18-0. The teams that we beat are combined 0-6 in Big 12 play. The very definition of mediocre, the very definition of middling, the very definition of somebody put a dud, the very definition of average at best. And I think it's going to start to show in a lot of ways, whether that be on the field. Let me turn my light on. I didn't realize it was off. Whether that be on the field, whether that be in the stands, and that's what we're going to talk about next. Stick around, guys, because we're going to talk about the fans being over this, and I think that people are starting to attach Ren Baker to this, and we'll talk about that. Stick around. This is Locked On West Virginia. This episode of Locked On West Virginia is brought to you by LinkedIn Talent Solutions. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. It's not just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else. Even those who aren't actively searching for a new job might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit their leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. 86% of small businesses get qualified candidates within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. We're back here on Locked On West Virginia. So I would never call myself, I don't know who you're talking to, Brian. I was never been a climb truster necessarily, but I have believed in this specific team a few times this year. I've definitely fallen for that. It was never my belief in Neal Brown as much as I just thought we had a good team and we can win in spite of some of the things that he does from time to time. Now, there may be other people that you would really consider climb trusters that have fallen off that for sure. I need to get a haircut. I'm just keep looking at this hair sticking out. It's driving me wild. Definitely time for that. Yeah, I believed in Garrett too, Luke. I don't think it's all his fault for sure. I think the offense that we run, sometimes it suits what he does really well. Other times it doesn't. Last year we had a downfield threat. I didn't know that Devin Carter was going to be missed as much as he has been, but those close to 50 balls, and there were a lot of them were downfield that he caught. Bryce Ford Wheaton, guys like that who we could go downfield to. I feel like those have been big because Garrett hasn't had those shot plays this year. Everything's been a lot closer, even though like last night, a lot of the throws were 10 yards down the field, but they were all the same looking throw. It's not like Garrett doesn't do what like what we saw from Rocco yesterday and layer in a bunch of different kind of passes. I'm not supposed to pull comments up anymore, by the way, guys, if you didn't notice this. So I was just going to use this comment as an example to I've been said to just go on with the show like this instead of pulling up comments and engaging with you guys because I had to put this on podcast. So that's why I don't answer comments as much anymore, but I did want to address this one. I at least appreciate you being objective. 3 guys are just mouthpieces and offer no objectivity. Excuse me. Kudos to you being straight up. Look at Indiana, Iowa State, Arizona last year. It's ridiculous. It's a great point, and better than I could have thought of myself in the moment, Chaz. So I think you look at what Indiana's doing right now, and look, if you can be ranked at Indiana and undefeated, there's no way that you can't do it at West Virginia. Look at Boise right now. Look how well they play. It's so frustrating. It really is. These 6 years, though, here's my fear. Last night we had 55,000 fans in the stadium. It's not bad. But with basically a top 10 team, who, if you beat, you're in the driver's seat, literally, with Kansas State, 1-2 for the Big 12 championship. That was the stakes. And we had 55,000 fans show up because there's a certain section of fans that they're becoming extremely apathetic. Like, think about all the stops they pulled out yesterday, and only 55,000 people showed up. Think about what they had to do to get 62,000 fans to the Penn State game, and then consider also that probably 15,000 of those were Penn State fans. Had to have a jet flyover. They handed out rally towels. Pat McAfee was there. Big Noon Fox was there. Now you look at this game, and there was a coal rush. And by the way, lost in all this is the Miners earned every single bit of that praise. I come from Mingo County, West Virginia, where that's just what people do. And my uncle broke his back, literally, not just for 40 years, but he literally was caved in on and had his back broken in the mine shaft. So it means a lot to a lot of us. And I hated to see them go home with the loss last night. You had a drone show at halftime. And I appreciate that Ren Baker's doing these things. You've had Machine Gun Kelly, who, whether you like him or not, that's a big-time guest. How many more things can you throw at the fans to get them to come? I want to know. How is Pitt 6-0, Indiana 6-0, Vandy 4-2, Arizona State 5-1, BYU 6-0, Nebraska 6-0, and we're 3-3? No excuses. That's a perfect way to say that. Perfect. It's exactly it. Let's listen, man. I haven't lived in Mingo County since. There's a comment on here that says you have no accent from being from Mingo County. That's true. I've lived in Southern Ohio / Huntington, West Virginia area since '97. So, I can do an impression of my dad perfectly. My dad would talk like this. He would say, "You guys know my history." One time I pawned his Sawzall, and wasn't supposed to, obviously, but I had an addiction issue and all that. Which, if you don't know that now, you know. Not anymore, been clean for years, but there was a time in my life when that was going on. So my dad, he came into my room and said, "Hey, pal, where the hell is my Sawzall? Hey, pal." Instead of Paul, he would say pal. "Hey, pal." That's how my dad would talk. But yeah, "Hey, pal, where you going, bub?" But my whole family calls me Bub. Nobody calls me Paul except my friends. So, but yeah, hey, pal, where's my Sawzall? That always stuck with me, the way my dad said that. But miss him a lot. Got a tattoo here. You can't see it on stream, but of the Flying WV. It's my dad's initials. It says, let's see, RCR, Ricky Charles Rockall. And then you got the Flying WV in there. And this was done in jail, by the way. So it was done with a staple, sharpened staple, poked by hand. But and it hurt like Dickens too. But it says final score 56-13, or I'm sorry, 59-13. My dad was born in 1959. He died in 2013. So I thought that'd be a cool way to memorialize him. He was the reason I was a West Virginia fan, and I love to talk about him anytime I get a chance. So, but my big worry is the fans and the apathy over this. So, are they going to stop coming to events? I don't know. Are they going to stop showing up? Are we in jeopardy of losing our, top 3 in the Big 12 presence as a stadium you don't want to play at? I don't know. It's heartbreaking, guys. So what's next, right? I think that's the question we have to ask. What next? What can we do as fans of a team that is disappointing us over and over again? What do we do about it? That's the conversation. Stick around for this last segment of Locked On West Virginia. This episode of Locked On West Virginia in part is also brought to you by Game Time. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. It filters out the fluff, and it shows you only incredible deals on great seats. That way you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Curation deals make it easier to find the best price on great seats. You can even look at the seat 360 degrees before you buy. It has the lowest price guaranteed, event cancellation protection, job loss protection, etc. It makes it easier to save on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and etc. Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference if you don't like your ticket or find a lower price. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Go to Game Time, download the app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Again, go to Game Time, create an account, and spell LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Game Time today and ask yourself, what time is it? It's game time. All right. Neal Brown doesn't seem to give his teams a focused, distinct personality. What words would you use to describe it but average? Our defensive backfield still chokes on pass coverage. Yeah, that's a Jordan Leslie issue, Smack, but I do agree with you. The pass coverage part of it. I watch Flight Radar 24 a lot. I could be wrong, but Ren has a meeting with potential coaching hires for over a month now. Yeah, that gets into the weeds a bit too much for me. Okay, Golf. I get it. It's something fans do, and I completely get it. So, I think Ren has said in the past he always has an ongoing list of coaches. So I think, a guy like Wilcox at Cal would be an option to look at, but he's in the ACC now. So I don't know if, Cal's any better or worse than the Big 12 in the ACC. I don't know. You look at guys like Jamie Chadwell at Liberty, and there are others. I'd have to really do my research and see who's doing well. Obviously, people pointed to the guy at UNLV. I don't, there's a lot of people out there. So Tony Vance says, as a recovering alcoholic, I can say that watching WVU will make you want to relapse. The Lord have mercy. Thanks, Tony, for that. A lot of Vances where I come from, too. Clyde Vance. Paul, my friend, mentioned a fear of us being left out as the conference realignment takes shape with the product on the field. Do you share the same fear? Absolutely. It's my biggest fear. And people might say, like, this is a little bit, what's the word I'm looking for here? Like I'm exaggerating too much. But listen, I've said this a few times, and I'm not proud of it, but I'm a single 39-year-old that, because the way I lived my life for so long, I'm a single 39-year-old. And so I don't have a lot to look forward to except for WVU at this moment in time. So obviously, if that happened, it would be devastating for me personally. So yeah, it's a big fear of mine. Do I think it'll happen? I don't know yet. I'm on the fence. I think it's probably, I wouldn't say it's likely to happen yet, but it's definitely, I wouldn't say it's not unlikely either. I don't mean to shout out another show on your podcast, but some friends and I are starting a podcast, and I'd love for you to check it out and maybe give some tips and tricks. Cold Country Podcast. Yeah, I'll check it out, Tyler. So I think we are in a spot here where here's where my brain goes. Number one, I can agree that Neal Brown has sucked for a long time and isn't likely to get much better, while also having hope for the future. I just can't turn that part of my brain off, that what if. You know, what if this team somehow wins 6 straight or something? Can I just show you one thing to possibly optimistic about, and just give me the floor for 5 minutes on this, guys, okay? And just try to get where I'm at, just so I can at least encourage you to watch the games for the next couple weeks, okay? Let me show you something real quick that I looked at earlier and thought, well, you know, it would be very Neal Brown. It'd be almost like, of course, this is the way he does it. So I'm going to share your screen really quick. So obviously, Kansas State comes to town in another night game this coming week. They're more decimated by injury than any of the previous 2 teams that we've talked about. I didn't say that. I didn't say we're going to have 6 straight wins at all. I said that's the fan in me dreams about that. You get what I'm saying? Like, it's not, I don't think it's likely to happen. I'm saying the fan in me dreams about it. Like, what if it just somehow did? Like, you don't have that in your head, in your brain, and nobody here does, because I'm never going to quit dreaming. That's just the kind of person I am. So anyway, we've got Kansas State coming to town this week, most likely a loss. But if we can get the win, then you've got Arizona, who's struggling, Cincinnati, who's medium, I think they're worse than us, even still with everything. Baylor's worse than us, UCF is worse than us, and Texas Tech is probably going to be ranked, right? But if you get past Kansas State, you're talking about, I know it sounds crazy, but you have to look at it this way. Avery Johnson, the quarterback, is hurt. Their entire secondary is hurt. They've got a good defense and a good running game and all that. I get that. But they're a running team. We play well against running teams. They're a better matchup than Iowa State was. Avery Johnson ain't going to beat us with his arm, guys. I'm just telling you. At least I don't think so. He had a pretty good game yesterday, but, you know, you think you could probably do some things against a kid like that. So if there's a way to get by a hurt Kansas State team, this might be the week to do it. And then Arizona on the road is going to be really tough, and McMillan is going to be really tough to stop. But I do think we're the better team. That means, what are we right now? 2-1, 3-1, 4-1, 5-1, 6-1. Set we can, or have we lost 1 or 2 in Big 12 play? My brain's broken. 1. So we've only lost 1 in the Big 12. You could still, I mean, you're still in this somehow, and it's crazy to think right now. But I'm just saying, we come back to this in a couple weeks, because depending on how the next 2 games go is going to say a lot, because you're probably going to win the next 3 beyond that. Just something to chew on. You know what I mean? It's something to chew on. So it's really all I got, guys. I wanted to end it with something decently positive, but overall, I don't have a lot of hope, but we'll see how it goes. Thanks for joining today, guys. I'll be back on probably tomorrow, for sure. We'll do an episode tomorrow and talk about. I'm gonna have John Kurtz on from. Even though I haven't confirmed this, I'm sure I just got to text him and he'll come on this week. So, other than that, guys, thank you for joining me here today. Thanks for being so engaged in the chat, but just still don't be afraid to dream a little bit. Okay. Just don't be afraid to dream a little bit. Don't let Neal Brown's lack of success completely douse every hope that you have. Because maybe he's eventually got to win one of these in spite of himself. Maybe it's Kansas State. And then where would it be? I don't know. So I know you guys all probably think I'm crazy, and maybe I am. But that's just how my brain works. Think about it. Until then, guys, remember I said it too. We'll talk tomorrow. Love all you guys. Oh, before we go, I forgot to stick around for this really quick. Let me read this. Thank you for making Locked On West Virginia your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the Locked On Big 12 podcast. Drake Toll leads the conversation in conference realignment news and really pulls no punches when it comes to covering every team in the Big 12. Find Locked On Big 12 wherever you get your podcast or watch YouTube. Good night, guys, or good evening. And for those of you saying that he's going to be fired ASAP, not going to happen. It's never happened in the history of the school. And we're 3-3. So there's just not a precedent for it. We were unranked coming into the season. It's not like we were a top 10 team coming into the year. So you have to think about it logically from Ren's point of view. Like, I get wanting him fired. Listen to me. Listen to everything I'm saying here. I get wanting him fired, and I'm not saying that he shouldn't be. I'm just saying, from Ren's point of view, this is a 3-3 team that came into the season not ranked, but on the cusp, and they've lost to 3 teams that are 18-0. I think more needs to play out before you could say fire somebody mid-season. So let's see what happens, but don't expect it. That's all I'm saying. All right, guys, I'm going to jump off. Appreciate you guys for sticking around for this one, and have a great day. This is Locked On West Virginia. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Rain or shine.